With the passing of several immigration laws in the United States, Asians were able to come to America in greater numbers. Such laws included the Loose Cellar Bill of 1946 and the Immigration Act of 1965. These four Trailblazers came to the United States to further their education, but got a little more than they had hoped for. From the moment they arrived, these women were very much aware of being the other, and always felt pressure to be the quiet American.
Nan immigrated to America in 1947. She was only 28 years old. It is unknown exactly when, but after she received her master's in public health, Nan worked for the World Health Organization in Pakistan. After receiving her bachelor's and master's in Korea, Tonghae immigrated to America in 1954 at the young age of 25. She attended the University of Minnesota and quickly received another master's in psychology. Then in 1960, while attending Boston University, Tonghae became the first Korean woman to receive a PhD in psychology. Tonghae's husband, Dr. Sundok Ko, who was also her former professor, gave his full support towards her academia, as he was also the first Korean to receive a PhD in psychology from Harvard University. The two Dr. Kohs married in 1963 in New York, and shortly after, the couple came to be known as the suave and worldly psychologists. After receiving her PhD, Tonghae started working at the Faribault State Hospital in Minnesota. And with the assistance of Senator Hubert Humphrey, she received her green card and eventually her U.S. citizenship in Chicago in 1965. Sung arrived to the United States in 1954. She was only 23 years old.
When they moved to Hyde Park to go to school and they tried to get their first apartment, I remember them driving around on the other side of the Midway, and they would see vacant signs and they would go in to try to lease an apartment, and they would go in and they'd say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, it's already been rented." And this is when Hyde Park was not the demographic that it is now. It was largely a sort of an upper Jewish population. And they didn't want to rent to my parents, and so they would leave and try to find a different apartment, and actually the next day they would see the for sale sign up again. So they knew it was sort of targeted. In fact, when they got their sub-basement apartment, they had to sign an agreement saying they would not let anyone who was African American into the building.
Sung faithfully committed to her roles as mother and wife.
She was a great mother. We had a lot of fun. Lots of laughing, lots of silliness. But she was our mother and not our friend. And there was complete delineation between that. I mean, I think as I got older, my mother was really my very best friend. But in a heartbeat, I knew what my role was, and it was not an equal. And I think that in some ways that kept us very safe because we very much knew what our boundaries were.
But Sung did not let her traditionally womanly duties deter her from a great career. Sung received her bachelor's at Aurora College for Education, 2 master's degrees from the University of Chicago, and a PhD from Nova University.
She went back to get a PhD, and I think the reason might have been in order to feel that she was academically as celebrated as the people that she was working with, especially as she was moving up the administrative ladder with the Board of Education. And while I don't think this was one of her most proud moments, I think that she realized that it was necessary. And that is one thing about my mother. She really always did what she felt was necessary to make sure she was had the same advantage as those around her.
With so much schooling and great leadership skills, Sung was surrounded by many mentors and the VIPs of the Chicago public school system. Sung eventually became the Assistant Superintendent of Special Services of the Chicago public school system, at the time the highest-ranking Asian American in the system. In 1981, she also received the prestigious Phi Delta Kappa Educator of the Year award.
This is a letter that I found, a speech that she wrote, a thank you speech after she received the Phi Delta Kappa Educator of the Year Award in 1981. And the letter reads, "Thank you, Dr. Harrigan, for your kind and most generous introduction. Committee members of the Phi Delta Kappa, honorees, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is a true honor and privilege for me to receive this Educator of the Year Award tonight. I humbly accept this award with the expectation that I will work even harder to deserve it."
A year after graduating from Yonsei University in 1962, Charlotte came to America to pursue her master's degree in educational psychology at Duquesne University. She was 23 years old and had only $250.
I had to live very frugally and watch every penny. At the time, rent was $60 a month. A hamburger was 50 cents. Bus fare was 25 cents. And a transfer was an extra 10 cents. To save money, I usually did not pay the extra 10 cents for a transfer and walked everywhere.
Even with her anxieties as a foreigner struggling to understand a new culture, Charlotte managed to remain determined in her schooling.
I continued in the States to be as competitive in academics as I had been in Korea. Sometimes there were Asian students in my classes, and I would do my best to outperform them. It was already hard enough to swallow the fact that I was handicapped compared to American students. But I believed that to lose ground to other Asian students who were probably in similar circumstances as me was simply not acceptable.
Charlotte went on to receive another master's degree in library science from the University of Pittsburgh in 1968 and remained in Pennsylvania working at the Carnegie Library for almost 2 decades.